Hi everyone. In the part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, we learned about different types of physical methods of sterilization. That is about heat sterilization methods, then radiation method of sterilization, and then filtration method of sterilization. In this part, we are going to discuss about chemical sterilization, that is disinfection techniques. So let's have a quick review of sterilization and what are the types of sterilization. So as we know, the definition of sterilization, it is defined as a complete elimination or killing of microorganisms, including their spores, and making the material free from them is going to be considered as sterilization. So how many types of sterilizations are there? As we know, two types. One is a physical method of sterilization and the second one is a chemical method of sterilization. And then coming to the physical method, that is sunlight, drying, heat, two types of heat, that is dry heat, moist heat, filtration, radiation. So these all have been discussed in the part 1, 2, 3, and 4. And in this part, we are going to discuss about chemical methods of sterilization. So these are all the chemicals that we are going to use in the methods of sterilization and to disinfect the objects or the materials. So these all are being called as chemical agents. Okay, so we'll discuss. So in general, you may say this Dettol, isn't it, which is going to be an antiseptic, and your surgical spirit, and these are some of the chemicals that we are using or applying in our day-to-day life. So chemical sterilization is going to be also called as disinfection, and these are all the chemical agents or disinfectants that we are going to read about their mode of action. That means how they are involved in the process of sterilization. So let's have a quick review of this disinfection, disinfectants, antiseptics, sanitization terms. Then we'll go in detail about all the disinfectants. So as the disinfection can be defined as a process of killing, inhibition, or removal of pathogenic microorganisms. What are pathogenic? Disease-causing microorganisms. By using chemical agents is being termed as chemical agents or chemical agent. So chemical agents that are used for disinfection are called as disinfectants. Obviously, the one which are being used for disinfection are called as disinfectants, and overall they are going to be called as chemical agents. So what's the difference between the disinfectants, antiseptic, and the sanitization? Let's have a quick. An agent applied to inanimate objects is being called as disinfectant. So an agent applied to an inanimate object. Okay, so that is going to be called as disinfectant. Example, you can take the phenol. For example, you are going to sterilize your floor or some of the equipments in the operation theaters with the help of this phenol and phenolic compounds. So where those are all being called as disinfectants. Then coming to the antiseptic, it is going to be applied to the living tissue. The best example is our Dettol and the spirit, that is a surgical spirit. Okay, and then sanitation, use of chemical agent on food handling equipment to meet public health standards and minimize chances of disease transmission is going to be called as sanitizers, and the process is called as sanitation. So example is the hot soap and water etc are going to be called as sanitizers. So we will sanitize our hands with some sort of a sanitizers, isn't it? So that is going to be called as sanitization. So here you have to remember of three headings. One is the disinfection, then sanitization, and the antisepsis. Okay, and the chemical agents of using is going to be of disinfectants, inanimate objects, antiseptic agents, majorly on living tissues, and sanitizers are going to be of food handling equipment and the surfaces of minimize the chances of disease transmission. Okay, so next moving to the different types of disinfectants. So here are the list of disinfectants that we are going to discuss in detail one by one now. So the major disinfectants that are commonly used are number one, phenol and phenolic compounds, then alcohols, aldehydes, metallic salts, halogens, dyes, detergents, and then gaseous agents, and finally quaternary ammonium compounds. So let's see the first one, phenol and phenolic compounds. Phenol was first used as a disinfectant and antiseptic. In 1867, Joseph Lister is the one who used this phenol as a disinfectant in his operation process, and that's how he reduces the post-operative infections. And the best used phenol and phenolic derivatives that we know are lysol, zyol, xylols, orthophenol, and phenol. So this is the structure of the phenol. Then coming to the mode of action, how it is able to kill the organisms, or how it is able to be involved in the process of sterilization. So that comes under the mode of action. So this cause lethal effect due to the disruption of cell membrane, coagulation of proteins. That means when you are going to apply this phenol to any bacterial surface containing objects or the floor or anything. So this phenol will penetrate into the cell membrane and it will disrupt the cell membrane of the bacteria and coagulate all the proteins that are present in your cell. Obviously, the bacteria or the organism is dead. And they are effective in presence of organic material. So what are the organic material? All our carbohydrates, proteins, amino acids, all those comes as organic material. So they are much effective and they remain active for a longer period. Okay, and then they're having two activities. One is bactericidal or bacteriostatic action. So what is this cidal means? So cidal, remember here C means killing, so K, so you can remember this as a thing. So it is able to kill the bacteria, or bacteriostatic, which will halt the growth of bacteria, is called as static, stationary. Okay, so static. So they are used in control of cocci bacteria in surgical and neonatal wounds. So these phenols are going to be majorly used in the surgical and neonatal wounds equipment sterilization. So the examples of these phenol and phenolic compounds I already told you are the xyzols and lysols. So remember, the mode of action of this phenol and phenolic compounds is going to have both bactericidal and bacteriostatic. That means it is able to kill the bacteria as well as it can stop or arrest the growth of bacteria or microorganisms. Then moving to the second type is alcohol. Okay, and we know alcohols are the most widely used disinfectants and as well as antiseptics. That is your methanol, ethyl alcohol, isopropyl alcohol. These are all going to be used both as disinfectants as well as the antiseptic. And alcohols are going to be considered as bactericidal. That means they are having the capacity to kill the bacteria. Okay, and they have no action on the spores and the viruses. This is a major drawback. Okay, but it had to be of more. Then coming to the example, ethanol, isopropyl alcohol are properly used alcohols. Okay, so ethanol, methanol, isopropyl alcohol are being used very popularly in different aspects of sterilization. So this methanol is effective against fungal spores and used for treating cabinets and incubators. So cabinets means your laminar airflow cabinets and the operation theater cabinets. All those things can be cleaned or sterilized by using this methanol. And even the incubators, so where you'll incubate the small premature babies. Okay, so those incubators are going to be sterilized by using this methanol. Then alcohols are used for disinfection of skin and for disinfection of clinical thermometers even. Okay, so even the clinical thermometer also going to be sterilized by using this alcohols. Then what is the mode of action? So how they are going to kill the bacteria? Obviously by denaturing the proteins, inactivating the enzymes and dissolving the membrane lipids. If it is going to be of gram-negative bacteria, it is going to contains the lipid membrane that is going to be dissolved. So obviously this can enter inside the cell, which is denaturing its proteins and inactivating the enzymes. So that's how that bacteria is going to die. So this is how the alcohols are going to have the bactericidal effect. Then moving to the next type, aldehydes. So two important and widely used aldehydes are formaldehyde and glyceraldehyde. These both are going to act as a microbicidal. I'm not saying here as a bactericidal, it is microbicidal. So that means it's able to kill majority of the microorganism, and it is also a sporicidal agent. Until now, we are not assured whether of alcohol or the phenol are able to kill the spores, but here aldehydes are having a great effect in killing the spores also. Okay, so that's why we consider it as both microbicidal as well as the sporicidal agents. And the glutaraldehyde disinfects the objects within 10 minutes of time. So the example of an aldehyde is a glutaraldehyde, which is having the capacity to disinfect the objects within 10 minutes of the time of exposure. And it is being used for sterilizing urological instruments in the hospitals, and lensed instruments, okay, and then respiratory therapy equipment in the medical field. So this is mainly used. Then what is the mode of action, how it is able to act against this microorganism? Means these aldehydes are going to combine with the protein and nucleic acids, and thus they are going to disrupt the function of the cell organelles, and as a result the cells are killed. So this is the mode of action of aldehyde. Then moving to the fumigants or gaseous agents. So as we know, many heat sensitive surgical instruments like plastic syringes, tubes, cylinders, plastic pipettes, blood transfusion apparatus, catheterization equipment, etc., and laboratory waste like plastic pipettes, petri dishes, etc. are the examples of the heat sensitive instruments, isn't it? And these all have to be sterilized by some sort of a thing that is going to be of these gaseous agents. The main sterilizing gaseous agents are ethylene oxide, beta propiolactone, then formaldehyde. So we had three types here: ethylene oxide, beta propiolactone, and formaldehyde. Formaldehyde we used in the liquid form also, as well as you are going to use in the gaseous form also. So this formaldehyde, have you heard this name? Yes, we are going to preserve our animals in the zoology laboratory by applying this formaldehyde. So this formaldehyde is protecting the specimens, okay, in the preparation of the specimens, where they are going to be without any decomposition, by halting or killing the microorganisms that are going to be involved in the decomposition of those tissues. So that's how the formaldehyde is mainly used in the specimens in the zoology laboratories. Okay, then coming to the first type of ethylene oxide. So it is going to have both microbicidal and sporicidal activity. That means it can kill the microorganisms and even the spores also. And its penetration power is high, and it can sterilize the materials when they are with plastic wraps also. So that suppose if you are taking a article and you're wrapping with the plastic or something, then also the material can be sterilized by exposure to this ethylene oxide. And the quantity of ethylene oxide that is required for the sterilization process is about 400 to 800 mg per liter. And then coming to the mode of action, how it is going to kill the bacteria or the microorganisms is going to be the same. They are going to combine with the organic compounds such as enzymes, proteins, and inactivate them by alkylation. So alkylation means adding of a alkyl group. Okay. So for example, ethylene oxide when combines with an enzyme containing sulfide groups, this ethylene oxide is going and combining with that sulfide, and that's how it became an inactivated enzyme. Okay, so then moving to the next type of fumigant or gaseous agent, which is a beta propiolactone. And this is also a broad spectrum microbicide and kill bacteria, fungi, viruses, and even the spores also. In liquid form, it is used to sterilize vaccines and sera also. This is a gaseous form that we are discussing, but beta propiolactone is also being in the liquid form in the sterilization of our vaccines and sera. And compared to ethylene oxide, it is having very low penetration power. Okay, then coming to the mode of action, though it has a low penetration power, it is highly effective, and it also combines with the organic compounds like enzymes and proteins and inactivate them by alkylation. Okay, then coming to the next type of disinfectant, that is heavy metals. Most of the heavy metals, either alone or along with other compounds, exerts detrimental effect on microorganisms. The effective metals are mercury, silver, and copper. This may you heard it oftenly that eating in the copper, drinking in the copper vessels is very good for health. All these things. Why it is good? Because these metals are having the capacity acting as microbicidal or bactericidal. That means killing of microorganisms that are present in the water. So obviously that's how we came to know that these heavy metals are also having some sort of effect in the sterilization process. So the majorly using heavy metals are mercury, silver, copper. Mercuric compounds like mercurous chloride, mercuric oxide are commonly used as chemical sterilizers. Then coming to the silver nitrate, then silver pyrite, etc. are being effective. Okay, and in the ancient period, the grandmas, everyone are used to say that the small children have to be feed in the silver bowls and all with the silver spoons. So maybe it is related to rich people, but they are having an assumption that eating in it is going to be of good for health. So what is that good means? This silver is going to act as a heavy metal, okay, in killing of microorganisms. Then copper, compounds such as copper sulfate is more effective against microbes. Then how these heavy metals are acting on this heavy microorganisms means they're going to combine with the cellular proteins and enzymes. For example, see here, mercury chloride inhibits enzymes which contain sulfur hydryl groups. So this HgCl2 is going to combine with the enzymes containing the sulfur hydryl, and it is blocking this enzyme action by combining with it and regulating the HCl. So that's how, because of this acidic condition and blocking of the enzyme, the bacteria or the microorganisms cannot survive. So the high concentration of salts of heavy metal coagulates cytoplasmic proteins in the death of this cell. So more the coagulation of this high concentration or of these heavy metals will lead to the coagulation of cytoplasmic proteins, and that's how there will be no movement of the molecules from outer side to inner side, and that leads to the death of these microbial cells. Then moving to the next type of disinfectant, that is halogen and hypochlorites, which are very important when compared to the other. Okay, the halogens are example fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, and astatine. The important halogens used as disinfectant agents are mainly chlorine and iodine. So this is an example of this iodine. So you may have heard about the tincture of iodine name very oftenly when you fell down because of your playing, during your playing. So obviously immediately a white powder is going to be applied on your wound. So that's a powder of iodine. Okay, when you go to the hospital, if you're having any surgeries or stitches, then you see some sort of a brown liquid that was uh, put on the wound or that part where disinfectant, and it is going to be of rust. So that is also an iodine. So we don't know, but we oftenly see these things. Okay, so let's see how it is going to affect in the sterilization process. So it is one of the oldest and most effective disinfectant. At high concentration may even kill some spores, and iodine is used in the form of tincture of iodine and iodophase. So this is a tincture of iodine. Mode of action, so how it is going to kill? So as it is an oxidizing agent, it inactivate microorganism essential metabolic compounds such as proteins. So it is going to arrest the protein. So if the proteins are getting arrested, that means getting inactivated, no enzymes will be functional because enzymes are made up of protein. So if no enzymes are going to occur, no metabolic activities. So that's how the bacteria is going to be killed. Okay, then coming to another important halogen, that is chlorine. So chlorine and its compound, so it may, the chlorine can be in any form, that is hypochlorous form or anything. Okay, so as we know, the chlorine is the most widely used disinfectant either in the gaseous form or in a chemical combination with others. Compressed gas of chlorine is used in disinfecting filter water and in sewage treatment plant. Chlorine in the form of hypochlorite is more convenient way of disinfection. So in all the forms of chlorine, and its compounds, the hypochlorite form is a convenient way of disinfection. Like calcium hypochlorite, sodium hypochlorite forms are used as chlorine disinfectants. Then mode of action, how it is able to kill the microorganisms, let's see. So chlorine destroys microbes by oxidizing cellular compounds. So it is all the cellular compounds are getting oxidized, and that's how it is going to kill. The microbicidal action of chlorine compounds is also due to the combination of chlorine with proteins of membranes and enzymes. So obviously all the chemical agents are going to have the direct or indirect effect on the proteins, membranes and enzymes. Okay, that's how they are going to kill. Then coming to the mechanism of this chlorine action, the antimicrobial property of chlorine and its compounds is due to the formation of hypochlorous. And when free chlorine reacts with water, chlorine is going to give rise to our hypochlorous acid. So chlorine plus water giving rise to hypochlorous acid. Now this hypochlorous acid and chloramines undergo hydrolysis forming hypochlorous acid. That's what I told you, and this again being cleaved into acidic and oxygen, and this is the main component, oxidizing cellular component. The oxygen released in the above reaction is a strong oxidizing agent as it destroys microbes by oxidizing cellular compounds. So this is how the mechanism behind the sterilization process, by using this chlorine. Then moving to the next type of disinfectant, that is dyes and detergents. Let's see the first one, dyes. So there are two types of dyes used as chemical sterilizers. One is the aniline dye, another one is the acridine dye. Okay, aniline dyes are going to have examples like brilliant green, malachite, more crystal violet, etc. So we are majorly using these all things in our microbiology laboratory to stain the bacteria, isn't it? So these dyes are more active against gram-positive bacteria than gram-negative. And the lethal effect on bacteria is due to their reaction with the acidic group in the cell and interfere with cellular oxidative process. So then coming to the acridine dyes, so these are also more active against gram-positive bacteria only, and the acridine dyes includes proflavin, acroflavin, etc. And what they are going to do is they act on the DNA, whereas the aniline dyes, they are going to act on the oxidative, that means metabolic process. They are going to, like proteins, enzymes are going to be halted or interfering with them. But here the acridine dyes are directly acting on the DNA of the organism and thereby killing them or destroying their reproductive capacity. So that's how the dyes are going to be involved in the process of sterilization. Then moving to the detergents. So the detergents are going to have surface tension depressor or wetting agents employed primarily for cleaning surface called as detergents. So the wetting agents employed primarily for cleaning surfaces are called as detergents. So we know what are detergents that we are using for washing of our clothes. So they are highly bactericidal. So example, soap, synthetic detergents, etc. Then these detergents do not form precipitate in alkaline or acid water and do not deposit with minerals and with hard water. Okay, and then soap removes microorganisms mechanically as this reduces surface tension and thereby increasing wetting property of water in which they are dissolved. Soapy water has the ability to emulsify and disrupt oils and dirt. So that's why when you're having any greasy nature to your hands, so obviously you will take a soap and you will wash your hands. So what is happening? That means it disrupts the oils and dirt by emulsification. So these microorganisms get trapped in the latter, that means whatever that is being developed between the water and the soap or detergent, and removed by water detergents and classified into anionic and cationic detergents. So the last but not least is the quaternary ammonium compound, which is another disinfectant. Okay, and these are mostly cationic detergents. So that's what I told you, we have the two types of detergents, anionic and cationic, and here is our cationic detergent, quaternary ammonium compounds. And these compounds are substituted ammonium salts having of R1, R2, R3 and R4 or carbon groups attached to a nitrogen in the ammonium compound. So the bactericidal power is exceptionally high. So we are obviously using the detergents. for cleaning the some sort of cloths which are very dirty, all the things, isn't it? So these compounds are fungicidal as well as destructive to certain pathogenic protozoans also. They have combined properties of germicidal activity and detergent action. Whereas in the detergents, we had only one type of the action, that is detergent action. But here, it is going to have both the characters of germicidal activity as well as the detergent action. That means surface tension, creating lathering, all the things. They also possess low toxicity, high solubility in water, stability in solution, non-corrosiveness. These properties gives them wide application as preservative in ophthalmic solutions. Okay, so quaternary ammonium compounds are mainly used as a preservative in ophthalmic solutions. They are used to standardize some sort of food and beverage utensils also in certain food processing plants, and disinfecting for cleaning floors, walls, and other surfaces. So because of these applications, that is germicidal activity, they are going to be even used in the food and beverage utensils cleaning also. Then coming to the mode of action, or due to majorly denaturing of proteins and interfering in metabolic pathways and membrane damage. See here, it's a membrane, plasma membrane of a bacterial cell, where this is going to damage it by removing all these things. Okay, so this is all about the different types of the disinfectants that we discussed in detail, and let's have a quick glance of these all chemical agents and the recommended use and the limitations. So phenol and phenolic compound, general disinfectant, okay, and microbial effectiveness is limited, irritating, and corrosive. Then alcohols, that is ethyl alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, we are going to use in the skin sterilization, and then thermometer, antiseptic, and obviously limitation is only antiseptic. Then coming to iodine, it is going to act as a disinfectant of skin, isn't it? And then irritating to mucous membranes may also occur, tincture of iodine, all those things. Then chlorine, water disinfection majorly used, and inactivated by organic material, pH dependent for effectiveness, objectionable taste and odor. This you can come while you're having the municipal water supply. When they are going to have the bleaching powder, then you can uh, taste it with of a different taste, which is objectionable. Okay, then silver nitrate, treating burns are going to be majorly used in the silver nitrate. Okay, then possible irritation may occur. Then mercurial, skin disinfection, slow acting toxic. Then ammonium compounds, again these are going to be used in the skin disinfection, non-sporicidal. Then formaldehyde and glutaraldehyde, both are going to be recommended in the form of fumigation. Formaldehyde is having the poor permeation, whereas glutaraldehyde is limited stability. So this is an overview. Just I want to recollect all the things that we have discussed in a glance. Okay, and that's how we finishes off all these types of chemical sterilization. So this is the end of our sterilization and disinfection technique. I hope so you understood and learned it well, because this sterilization topic, as I said in the first part, it's a very important topic in the microbiology subject. Okay, go through the other parts also to understand about the physical sterilization. Okay, thank you.